Everybody know AMS bit off Alan Roger Carey. No, Alan said in every video. Everybody know that shit. So it is what it is. I'm not here to fucking bite my tongue for no nigga. Everybody know AMS bit off Alan Roger Carey. Period. It
No
is what it is.
one.
But I'm not just talking about him. I actually didn't even have him in mind. You know what I mean? So is it your book or ARC book? Which one is it? Is it your book or ARC book? I brought ARC book because he's the originator. I could pick up the phone and call ARC if I want it from the horse's mouth.
Right. And that's a lot. You guys get older and stuff like that. This is the issue you're gonna run into women when y'all dealing with these tender girls right now. So y'all probably ain't got that issue. They probably happy you gone. But when you start dealing with older women, they want they want a little bit more of your communication. You know, we can't say that other word, communication.
Yeah.
You can't say the other word. That word trademark. So we're gonna stay out of communication because they ain't got much going on in their past life. You know, hey, dudes copywriting words out the fucking dictionary, out the dictionary. Nah, that's their word. I'm a copyright strategist. Can't nobody say strategist. Ain't nobody say strategist. All right, so hey, you got some more super chats? I'm gonna move it along.
Well. Long time no talk to. What's happening? Now, as you could tell by my intro, who I'm going to be mentioning yet once again. But first, I want to make mention of the fact that this is my first YouTube video. Now, I've done like 2 or 3 Patreon videos already since I've been married. But this is my first YouTube video. See the ring? This is my first YouTube video since I've been married. And a lot of people have been asking me, Alan, how do you enjoy marriage? Is marriage different than, when you were just dating? Do you miss being single? I've been asked a lot of questions over the last week and a half. Well, basically since I got married, which was a week ago Friday. Yeah, people have been asking me, how do I enjoy marriage? How is marriage different? And I think the third most question I've been asked, do I miss being single? Marriage is great. I know a lot of guys on YouTube and in the manosphere are anti-marriage and don't think highly of marriage, but I love being married. And I'll be honest with you, 20 years ago, I would have never thought I would hear myself say that. Because I was like a lot of you guys. When I was in my 20s and 30s, man, I wasn't really thinking about marriage. I was thinking about trying to fuck as many beautiful, sexy women as was humanly possible. But now that I'm 57 years old, 3 years away from being 60, oh yeah, I love it, man. I mean, I'm only, a week and a half into it, so you can't really evaluate a marriage over a 10-day period. But, I mean, this leads me into question number 2. How is it different? Well, number 1, the main physical difference, I'm wearing a wedding ring now. I've never worn a wedding ring in my life, but it don't feel any different than when I was engaged to my wife. It's probably more different for my wife than it is for me because, now she has a new last name. Her last name is now Curry. So, I got to point out, man, I got a lot of love on Facebook. Wow. I received a lot of love. Now, I know a lot of you all, a lot of my YouTube followers, they aren't Facebook friends of mine. But if you're a Facebook friend, you know what I'm talking about, man. I would say I've been on Facebook since I've been active on Facebook since fall of 2008. So you're talking about what? About 12 years? I've been on Facebook for about almost just under 12 years. And I kind of, every now and then, I keep track of most of my most popular posts in terms of, how many reactions I get, such as likes, loves, etc. And then I pay attention to how many comments I get. Do you know, for the posts I had announcing that I got married, in terms of reactions, like number of likes, loves, that type of thing, this is the second most popular post I've ever had on Facebook in the last 12 years. Yeah, I have about, let me look real quick. I think it's about 700 and, it's over wait, hold on. Approximately 750 reactions. 750 reactions. Yeah. That's for me personally. Now I know some other people might have posts on their timeline that gets, over 1,000. But for me, that's the second most reactions I've ever had for a Facebook post. And then in terms of comments, I have about 600 comments and reply comments. That's the most I've ever had. I've had people respond to my posts about me being married that I literally haven't heard from in 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 or 6 years. And I'm not even joking. Yeah, I've heard from people that I ain't heard from at minimum in over a year or two, and at maximum in some cases more than 5 or 6 years. So anyway, I received a lot of love from my Facebook friends and friends of Facebook friends. But yeah, so again, to answer the 3 questions, how does it feel to be married? I would say my answer is great. Does it feel any different than, say, when you and your wife were just girlfriend, boyfriend, or just engaged? At this point, not really. I think the biggest difference for me is going to happen when my son is born, which is in about a month and a half. That's when my life is going to be different than it ever has been before. More so than just having a wife. It's having a wife and a child. I think for me personally, when my wife gives birth to my son, which is due in roughly mid-September, that's probably going to alter my life in more significant ways than just me being married alone. Now here is one little thing that's interesting. And I say this with all due respect to a lot of my beloved frat brothers. One of my best friends, who's also a frat brother of mine, he organized this Zoom call. He organized this Zoom chat that had a number of my guys who are a combination of close friends and fraternity brothers of mine that I went to college with. Some I went to high school and college, and others I just went to college with. And there was a portion during this Zoom call, video conferencing, where they called themselves offering me marriage advice. If that's not ironic in itself. You offering a dating coach marriage advice. It was mostly lighthearted, but here's what was interesting. Is that just about all of them were giving me advice on how to prevent arguments or how to overcome arguments, how to apologize after argument. that was kind of sad to me. Even though they were being lighthearted 3/4 of the time, it's kind of sad that the expectation of marriage is that you and your wife are going to be arguing all the time. Because as most people either do know about me or should know about me, I'm into BDSM, man. And if you know anything about BDSM, there was an article that came out, I want to say it was 2013. And one of the things it said, it was comparing BDSM-oriented marriages and relationships to more just traditional, conventional marriage and relationships. And one of the things it pointed out, it said there was 2 to 3 areas where it said that based on these surveys and interviews with different married couples and a few unmarried couples, how BDSM relationships and marriages are different from traditional, conventional relationships and marriage. One of them was less drama and greater peace of mind. And that's mostly due to the fact that you rarely, if ever, argue because everyone knows their role. See, half of arguments in marriages and long-term relationships comes from when you don't have specifically defined roles in the relationship or marriage. Whereas when you're in a BDSM-oriented marriage or long-term relationship, your roles are specifically defined. Like, my role in my marriage is specifically defined, and my wife's roles. Like, my wife, she knows her role. You know, I'm a fan of the Chicago Bulls, and I remember hearing Phil Jackson, former coach of the, he was both the coach of the Chicago Bulls and then later the Los Angeles Lakers, and they were interviewing him about basically what it takes to be a championship team. And one of the things he said is that he said everybody has to know their role and fulfill their role. That was one of the things he said. He said everyone has to know their role and fulfill. Bill Belichick in football said essentially the same thing one time in an interview. They asked him a similar question. Like, what does it take to be a Super Bowl champion? And he said, #1 key is all my players knowing their role and performing at the highest ability within their role. So if you're a quarterback, you know everything it means to be a quarterback and you perform at the highest level as a quarterback. If you're a defensive back, a cornerback, or a free safety, you know your role and you perform at the highest level in that role. And the same can apply for relationships, man. You got to know, without getting too lengthy, because I don't want this video to be too long, but I kind of raised some eyebrows among my frat brothers because at some point I had to stop them. I was like, okay, enough with the advice related to arguments. I was like, at the time she was still was she still my fiance? Yeah, no, we had gotten married. I think it was the day after I got married. I said, me and my wife, we don't argue. And they all had a reaction like, oh, get out of here. Like, all couples argue. I said, seriously, dude. I said, since I've been with my wife, since back when we first started dating up until now, I said, man, we've had some what I would call minor, extremely respectful disagreements. So like there is a handful of times where my wife has disagreed with me on something, but it was always an extremely respectful disagreement. Like if you knew the person I am, my wife, she's not sassy or smart alecky at all. Like she never back talks me. Like at the risk of generalizing, like quite a few black women and even Hispanic women do. My wife doesn't back talk me. And in a BDSM relationship, that's not allowed anyway. That's one thing about being in a BDSM relationship. When you're a woman that's a submissive, you're not allowed to back talk your dom. That's like considered prohibited. But yeah, my wife never back talks me. We've never argued. We've never had like some kind of like heated shouting match. Never ever. Like not even one dime. And when I told my frat brothers that, they were like almost in disbelief. They were like, Like, what kind of relationship you got, man, where you never ever, because again, just about all of their advice centered around, here's what you should do to prevent an argument, or once an argument happens, this is what you should do to, move forward, and this is how you should apologize to your wife once you do argue with her. And I was basically like, man, I can't relate to that advice. I was like, I don't be arguing with my wife. My relationship is smooth sailing. I can't predict the future. I'm not saying we might not run into a snag at some point, a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now. But I'm saying if I was evaluating our relationship on the last year, smooth sailing, one of the most smooth sailing relationships I've ever had, actually. So, and the final question related to marriage I've been asked multiple times is, do you miss being single? Nah, not really. Again, I admit, if I was like still in my 20s or 30s, I probably would. But being 57, no. I mean, I've lived my best life as a bachelor. That's one thing I can say. I've done almost everything. When it comes to interacting with women, I've done almost everything you could do as a bachelor. And that's just real fucking dog. I've done almost everything you could do as a bachelor. It ain't too many things I can think of off the top of my head that I have not done. I've had sex with hundreds of women. I've had threesomes, foursomes, even at least one fivesome. I think 2 fivesomes. I mean, every type of sexual situation you can think of that would represent some men's sexual fantasies, I've lived out. I mean, I could literally write a memoir that would just be full of just some of the most amazing, out of the ordinary sexual experiences with women. So I can't think of anything that right now I would say, damn, I always wanted to do this, but I never got a chance to do it. Damn, there was this one thing I wanted to do with a woman or 2 women, and damn, I just wasn't able to accomplish that. I mean, almost everything you could throw out there, like, Alan, have you done this? Alan, have you done that? Alan, have you done this? Alan, have you done that? If I haven't done everything, I'd say 19 out of every 20 things that I wanted to do with women, in terms of interacting with them romantically and or sexually, I've done it. Like, one off the top of my head, as most of y'all know, man, I've had sex not only have I had sex with I've had sex with 2 sisters multiple times. I've had sex with 2 roommates multiple times. I've even had sex with a mother and daughter multiple times. Yeah, I've had sex with a mother and daughter more than one time. I've had sex with older women. I've had sex with younger women. Ain't too much I ain't done. So anyway, that's that. Now, related to the title of this video. Now, you saw the clip in the intro where the 4 horsemen of game, as they call themselves, the 4 horsemen of game. Now, in my circles, they would probably call them the 4 copycats of game. I had to laugh at that myself. 4 copycats of game. Now, it wasn't like I had all these followers send me these emails and Patreon messages and whatever else, saying, hey, Alan, man, Alpha Male Strategies was kind of clowning you on Stefan Klinkskill's channel about the fact that, you don't like him using the term non-sexual attention and companionship, and the fact that you said you own it. I listened to the clip. It's the same clip that you see at the beginning of this video.
And that's a lot. You guys get older and stuff like that. This is the issue you're gonna run into women when y'all dealing with these tender girls right now. So y'all probably ain't got that issue. They probably happy you gone. But when you start dealing with older women, they want they want a little bit more of your communication. You know, we can't say that other word, communication.
Yeah.
You can't say the other word. That word trademark. So we're gonna stay out of communication because they ain't got much going on in their past life. You know, hey, dudes copywriting words out the fucking dictionary, out the dictionary. Nah, that's their word. I'm a copyright strategist. Can't nobody say strategist.
Honestly, I didn't think it was that bad. I actually laughed at it. To be honest and truthful, it was funny to me. Like, a lot of people thought I was going to be like insulted and be angry and upset. Shit was funny to me, man. I laughed myself. Yeah, it was. I found it entertaining. It was almost, in its own weird way, it was almost very respectful of Alpha Male Strategies. The joke to me was almost a form of respect. He was basically saying that, hey, that's Alan Roger Curry's term, and he's always pointing out the fact that I got that term from him, so I'm no longer going to use it. Now, here's what I wanted to touch on, if only briefly and lightheartedly, is he went a little too far. He said, since ARC has copyrighted the term non-sexual attention, I'm going to copyright and trademark the term strategies so that nobody else can use the term strategies. Okay, I know he was trying to be funny, but on a serious note, no, you can't do that. And that's half the reason I'm doing this video. I wanted to point out, and I've done like 3 or 4 videos talking about the issue of copyrights and trademarks and intellectual property and everything related to it. But I just wanted to briefly and even in some respects lightheartedly touch on it again. But here's the deal, man. Here's the first clarification. The word non-sexual, a lot of people have been asking me, like, Alan, I didn't know you own the word non-sexual. I didn't know you can trademark. No, you can't. You can't. You cannot copyright or trademark an individual word, with the rare exception of if it's a word you actually created yourself. Like, you literally created that word. That's the only time you can copyright or trademark like one word, is if you created or invented that word yourself. Like, it's some word that's not even in the dictionary. You just kind of came up with it yourself. But if it's any type of commonly used word, you can't copyright or trademark an individual word. So I wanted to clarify that. So I do not. A lot of people were saying that the Alpha Male Strategies had said to people that, or implied that I own the word. Now, I don't own the word non-sexual. Now, here's where you can gain ownership rights over a word. Is if you use a word as part of some type of signature phrase, some type of brand marketing slogan, some type of personal philosophy, or you express it in a very unique manner as part of a paragraph or part of a chapter, yes, you can copyright that as well as you can trademark that. Trademark, first to clarify the difference between those two, trademarks, you can trademark words like I said, brand marketing slogans or phrases, but mainly trademarks have to do more so with logos, like my Mo1 logo, like visual things like a logo. That's where trademarks come into play. But you can trademark, like I'll give you an example of something that I mentioned on a previous video that I trademarked that threw a lot of people for a loop, but I had to pay for it. I had to pay for it and I had to wait a long time for it, but the phrase direct approach dating coaching. Direct approach dating coaching. Yeah, I actually have that trademarked, which means no other dating coach can use that as part of their marketing for their products and services. Yeah. Here's an interesting story behind that. I applied for that trademark like almost 2 years ago. And had to pay I paid like over $2,000 for that trademark. Yeah, that's one thing difference between copyrights and trademark. Copyright, you automatically get a copyright if you write an ebook, a paperback, or record an audiobook. If you write an ebook, a paperback, or record an audiobook, and then you submit it to the United States Library of Congress. I don't know how it works in other countries, but here in the United States, you would just submit it to the United States Library of Congress, and then it's automatically copyrighted. You don't have to you pay a minimal fee, but it ain't expensive. You might pay like $50, but it ain't no expensive fee. So that's copyright. Copyright mainly has to do with things of literary works or artistic value, like books, movies, TV shows, TV news broadcasts, magazines, freelance articles, newspaper articles, etc. Yeah, anything that deals with either a visual medium like a TV show or movie, or a written medium like a newspaper article, magazine article, book, that type of thing qualifies for being copyrighted. Trademark, you have to pay for a trademark, and trademarks can be challenged. That's why sometimes it takes so long. So like when you submit something for a trademark, now one, you got to pay for it. Like again, my trademark, I had to pay like over $2,000 to trademark the phrase direct approach dating coaching. Yeah, that cost me over $2,000, man. And I had to wait 1.5 years before it was approved. Because once you submit a trademark, if another company wants that exact same phrase, they can compete with you. So they can get their attorney to say, no, I want to use that same slogan or that same brand marketing phrase or whatever. So other people, the trademark office gives other people the opportunity to challenge and compete with your trademark. So then you have to win the trademark. You have to win it. But yeah, without getting into a longer story, yeah, it took me over 1.5 years, almost 2 years before I got that trademark approved. But that's an example. Another thing I have trademarked is the 4 modes of verbal communication. That's not only copyrighted, but that's trademarked. And there's a few other things I have trademarked. But most of my stuff is copyrighted. But yeah, you can't copyright an individual word, but what you can copyright and or trademark is if you use a word as part of a unique sentence, a unique phrase, a unique slogan, a unique concept, a unique personal philosophy. Yeah, here's another difference between copyright and trademark. When I copyright something, that doesn't necessarily mean that nobody else can use it, period. That doesn't mean that nobody else can use that word or phrase, period. But what it does mean is that, I mentioned this multiple times, is that person is obligated to give me what's known as proper credit attribution. Like, for example, if I use someone else's copyrighted terms or copyrighted slogans, copyrighted phrases in one or more of my books, I have to give that person a shout out. Like for example, if you notice in some of my books, anytime I use something that I know I took from somebody else's book, I'll say, credit to Stephen Covey, author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, or credit to Dr. Brad Blanton, author of Radical Honesty, credit to Iceberg Slim, author of Pimp, The Story of My Life. Anytime I use other people's unique terminology, their unique way of saying something, basically a word for word quote from somebody else's book, I give them their proper credit attribution. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're supposed to do, man. It ain't hard. It don't take like more than a few seconds. You just simply got to give people their proper credit attribution. Now, trademark, that's kind of a different animal. Now, trademark, you can't use people's trademark at all, particularly like for business purposes. If somebody got a trademark logo, trademark slogan, you can't use it. That's where you really risk getting sued. You can get sued your ass off for using somebody else's trademark. Yeah, you don't ever want to use somebody else's trademark stuff. Trademark, that's when you can lose big money. I mean, you can file a lawsuit of copyright infringement too, but definitely trademark. When you violate somebody's trademark, you get sued up the ass. But yeah, so yeah, AMS again. That clip was funny, but yeah, I don't own the word nonsense. But here's the deal. Here's the deal, man. In simple terms, yes, I was the one who, in book form, originated the phrase valuing men should highly value their non-sexual time, attention, and companionship. That phrase right there, men should always highly value their non-sexual time, attention, and companionship. I originated that phrase. That is, you could say, I pretty much own that phrase. Now, in terms of just individually the word non-sexual, no. But that phrase in its entirety, men should highly value their non-sexual time, attention, and companionship. I own that shit. Which means that if somebody else repeats that phrase, they need to be giving me a shout out. They need to say something like, shout out to dating coach Alan Roger Curry. He wrote a whole book about that whole concept, and it's called The Possibility of Sex. End of story. If somebody talks about the concept of valuing placing a high value on your non-sexual time, attention, and companionship, if somebody's saying that in a video, they need to take a few seconds to say, shout out to Alan Roger Curry, because he's the one who originated that and popularized that concept. And he has a whole book about that concept called The Possibility of Sex. That takes all of what, 5-10 seconds? But see, a lot of guys don't want to do that. Either because they just personally don't like me, or they don't want to give me too much credit because then they feel like they might lose some of their followers, supporters, and clients to me. It's that simple. It's that simple. I've never borrowed somebody else's phrases or slogans without giving them proper credit attribution. Never once. And I challenge somebody to say differently. I've never taken a phrase or a slogan or a concept or philosophy that I knew that was attributed to somebody else, that somebody else either originated it and or popularized it, and then I started using it and I didn't get that person shout out. Like, anytime I use the term select versus non-select, I always say shout out to Ron Wheels, because he popularized that. I don't know if he originated it, but he definitely popularized it. The concept of select men versus non-select men. Ron Wheels popularized that. And 19 out of every 20 times I use that term, I say shout out to Ron Wheels. But, so anyway, that's that. But no, I wasn't offended by the little joke that Alpha Male Strad had made all his other three. Now, one of those guys I wasn't familiar with. The one who was in the bottom right, MJ something. I don't know who that is. I don't even know who he is. But the other three, they all bitten off of me. I can't speak for the guy named MJ something, but in that clip, I don't know who he is. But AMS, as everyone knows, he's bit. Now, here's the thing that I also want to clarify. Some people have taken it too far when they say, like I read somebody in the comments of a video where they said, yeah, AMS stole all of Alan Roger Curry stuff. No, that's actually not true. See, now you got me defending AMS. AMS hasn't stolen all of my stuff. So when people say make that comment, they're going a little too far. AMS hasn't stolen all of my stuff. For the biggest, people should know. See, if I had to divide advice into two categories, advice related to getting women in bed and advice related to preventing women from using you, exploiting you, and wasting your time and money. When it comes to advice related to getting women in bed, me and AMS are almost polar opposites. There ain't nothing similar about us. In simple terms, AMS is about indirect verbal game. I'm about direct verbal game. So in that regard, he and I are totally different. So when it comes to most, if not all of his advice related to getting a woman to have sex with you, that's where I would say me and AMS are totally different. We've never been similar in that regard. So for people who say AMS has stolen all of ARC's advice, no, that's not true. Even I would defend AMS in that regard. He hasn't, again, when it comes to advice related to getting women in bed, he's all about indirect shit. I'm all about direct approaches. So me and him are not only different, but we're almost like night and day different. The area where he has bitten a lot of my material is when it comes to advice related to preventing women from using you, exploiting you, and causing you to waste time and money without getting no pussy. That's the area of advice that he's stolen from me, particularly, specifically my book, The Possibility of Sex. That's the main, of my 4 books, the main book he's ripped off the most is my book, The Possibility of Sex. And I would say along with him, Stefan Clinkscales. He's bitten off of that book. The guy, the other guy that was on that video, something about fitness, fearless fitness or something. He's done that. He's been off the whole non-valuing your non-sexual time, attention, and companionship and all that shit. That's my most bitten off book, man, of my 4. Most people think it's Mode 1 is my most, but no. My most bitten off book is The Possibility of Sex. Hands down. Yeah, if I was ranking which books of mine have been bitten off the most versus the least, number 1 book that's been bitten off the most is The Possibility of Sex. Second most book that's been bitten off the most is The Beta Male Revolution. Third would be Mode 1. And my least bitten off book, I would say, is Who Said Again. I haven't had too many people bite off of Who Said Again. Hardly anybody. I can't think of any notable pickup artist and or dating coach who's bitten off of a significant chunk of my material from Who Said Again. But yeah, Possibility of Sex, man. I've lost count how many other pickup artists and or dating coaches have bitten off of that book. It's like ridiculous. Seriously. But anyway, that's all I got for you today. Hey, take this pandemic serious. I know a lot of people don't. People still saying it's a hoax, but people are dying out here. People are dying out here. Take every precaution that's mandated by your city, state, country, and stay safe and healthy. I'll talk to you when I talk to you. Peace.
Yes, sir.
Say it again.
Yes, sir.
Who's the king?
Alan, you're the king.
Say it again.
Alan, you're the king. You're dominating me.
Say it again.
Alan, you're dominating me right now. Mode 1.
Mode 1.
Daddy, can I go, please? You're the king.
Say it again.
Oh, you're the fucking king. Yes. Yes. Yes.
You're the king, Alan.
AKA the king. of verbal seduction. You know, it's the tone of your voice, how seductive your intonations are, the vibrations that you could just reach out over the phone lines and stroke a woman's breast just by the sound of your voice, how you could make her pussy so wet just by the sound of your voice. That's actually very hot.
So you said my show was what?
I said your show is powerful.
Oh, say it again.
Your show is powerful.
But the king would fuck me really good.
Who's the king?
Alan Roger Curry.
Who's the king?
Alan Roger Curry. The king.
The king.
The king.
I have to agree with you on the communication piece, because I actually did take a session with Alan Roger Curry, and he gave me a line that I did not think was going to work, and it worked. And I was like, what the fuck?
Oh my God, man, he's the master. He's the master of the verbal seduction. He got that communication piece down pat.
It really worked. It just simply worked, and I just didn't think it was going to work at all.
Some guys have natural handles. Some guys have a better natural shot, but you can always improve your shot. And sex is damn sure something you can fucking learn. Look, dude, you want to learn how to talk better? I'm hiring Alan Roger Curry to get my dirty talk game on, because it's always been something I want to get better at.
Verbal seduction, man. I'm like, clearly, this guy's the Michael Jordan of seduction. Like, come on now.